So before I start with this story, I just want to say something really quickly. I don't condone drugs. I've done a lot of drugs up to this point in my life, and as a person who has done a lot of drugs, I'm telling you right now, don't do them. But since I can't stop anybody from doing or not doing anything, if you're going to do it anyways, right, be extremely careful. Get your shit checked. Make sure there's no fentanyl in them, in your drugs. They have testing kits at pharmacies and shit. They cost a penny, but hey, if you're spending a fucking penny on drugs, you should be able to spend a penny on getting your shit tested to make sure it's not going to kill you. And also make sure you're not getting ripped off. With that being said, a couple of years ago, I worked at this McDonald's, right? And a lot of the other people I worked with were either teenagers or convicted felons or old people who ain't doing shit with their life. So every now and again, right, a convicted felon would come in, work for a little bit just for documentation that they're doing some shit, and then they would just quit out of nowhere. You know, usually they don't give a shit about their job. Usually they're just fucking, you know, sitting back while everyone else is doing their work, or they're just looking for some excuse to fucking blah, 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 right? And one of these dudes, right, I'm just gonna call him Teeth, because man had a grill on, like, all the time. So Teeth came in one day, and he was chill as hell. I bought cocaine from him numerous times because I had two jobs at that time. I was working from 5 in the morning until 3:30 p.m. at a factory, and then usually immediately I would go to the McDonald's where I was working at too, at like 4 p.m. until like anywhere from 8 p.m. till midnight, or like even 2 in the morning sometimes. So, you know, I wasn't really sleeping a lot. I was gaining a shitload of weight. I was extremely stressed out, exhausted. So, you know, I felt at the time, naturally, okay, I just need a boost. I knew he had cocaine and marijuana, but the thing is, right, I didn't know what else he had, and this is me being 18, 19, and stupid. So I figured, hey, if this guy has access to these things, he should have access to ecstasy, right? And I really wanted to try it. So I asked him one day, because he said he was going to be out of town for a week to pick up most likely more drugs to sell. So I was like, hey, Teeth, by chance, right, do you think, while you're out, do you think you could get me some ecstasy? He's like, yeah. How much do you want? I'm like, I don't know. I only had like $90 in cash. So pretty much, I was just like, however much this will get me. I gave him $90. And he's like, all right, cool. So he leaves. He comes back after a week. He told me he was back, and the meetup was some comical shit, because fucking pretty much the whole idea was we were gonna do the handoff at McDonald's. I already paid him. The same McDonald's that we fucking worked at. So essentially, he said he'll be there at like 2:30. This just happened to be on one of my off days. So he said he'll be there at like 2:30. So I showed up at 2:15 just in case, right? So I ordered some food. I slowly ate it. I waited around. 2:30 passed, right? I texted him, hey, where you at? He said, oh, I'm on my way. Then it's 2:45. I order a little bit more food. I slowly eat that. My management already questioned why I'm hanging out there. I'm like, I just wanted to get out of the house. And, you know, next thing, so, you know, they didn't care for a bit. But next thing you know, 3 p.m. rolls around, and I'm concerned. So I fake a stomach ache, and I went into the restroom. 3:10, 3:15, around that area, rolls around. I'm blowing this guy up, because I just gave him my $90, and I want my fucking ecstasy. So, fucking, like, 3:20, I think. 3:50, 3:25, somewhere. A little bit before 3:30, he said, hey, I'm here. And then I was like, all right, cool. So I got out of the restroom, and he's nowhere to be seen. Not anywhere. And he said, I'm asking him, hey, where you at? And he said, I left it by the soda machine. This was right when fucking rush hour was starting. You left drugs, $90 worth of fucking drugs, next to the soda machine. So I had to go up to the soda machine And there was some trash there. There was, straw wrappers and shit and lids and whatever. And then there was just this big ass balled up napkin while people were fucking storming in. So I just grabbed the napkin, shoved it in my pocket, trying not to look suspicious because I know motherfuckers will see me. I grabbed the fucking, and just in hopes of not looking that suspicious, I spit when I talk. I grabbed the straw wrappers, the lids, whatever the hell else was on the counter. I just threw it away. Well, actually, no, I shoved it in my pockets, too. I don't know what the fuck I remembered. All I knew was that, hey, I got to get this and get the fuck out. So I left. I went back to my place, and I unraveled the napkin, and it wasn't even in a bag. It was just these, like, white, yellow, kind of brownish, clumpy rocks. They kind of look like teeth that rotted out almost, but rock. And I was like, all right. So I smelled it, and it smelled a little weird. I was like, all right, I don't know how I'm supposed to take this. So I just took a bite out of one of them. And it wasn't that hard. It was almost like biting into like a bar of soap almost, but like way different. And how I remember it tasting, it tasted like, it's like if you walk up to an alien, like an extraterrestrial space person, and ask, and tell him to replicate what barbecue tastes like, and then he tries replicating the taste just from what you described. That's how it tasted. It tasted like extraterrestrial space alien barbecue. And so I was like, all right, you know what? It's fine. And after like a half hour, I was like, hey, am I supposed to feel horny? Or like, because I heard this stuff makes you want to bang everything. This stuff makes you extremely cozy and comfortable, and like, you're swimming in sex, but like right now I just feel like cleaning my room for some reason. I couldn't sleep. I stayed up all night. I was like, all right, you know what? Maybe this is just what ecstasy is supposed to do. Maybe it's just different for different people. I don't know. So I just kept eating it bit by bit because there was a good amount of it. And I pretty much stayed up for a couple of days. And then the weekend rolls around and I'm hitting up my best friend. I'm like, hey, buddy. I got some ecstasy. Like, I'm coming over this weekend. Is that cool? He's like, yeah. I was like, dude, we're going to try this shit out. It's going to be a good time. So we roll over to his place. The nighttime rolls around, and next thing you know, right, we spent the entire weekend eating these rocks. And then, like, the following Wednesday, Teeth asks me if I want some more hard, which, if you don't know, hard is slang for crack. And I was like, hey, wait, what do you mean hard? He was like, well, do you want any more of it? I was like, what do you mean any more? Wait, did you give me crack? And he said, yeah. I was like, dude, I asked for ecstasy. And he's like, oh, my bad. All he said was my bad. You could have got me hooked on crack, bro. I was pretty pissed. He's like, I was like, what the fuck, dude? He's like, alright, my bad. You said you wanted me, and I got you mad. I was like, bro, I said ecstasy. He was like, I don't know. Sorry, dude. You know anybody else that wants any? I'm like, no! There's no refunds with drugs. Like, this ain't fucking Boondocks. I don't know. I was upset. I still am kind of upset because me and my best friend of all time stayed up the entire weekend just eating crack. I had to explain that to him. After the conversation was over, I hit up my boy. I'm like, hey, dude. So remember when we had ecstasy? He's like, yeah, dude. Yeah, that was pretty all right. You know, I mean, wasn't what I expected. I was like, yeah, that's because it was crack. He was like, really? What the fuck? He wasn't that pissed off about it. He was just surprised. I was like, yeah, dude, I'm really sorry. He's like, nah, bro, you're good. So, yeah, I pretty much spent like a few days and an entire weekend eating a bunch of crack. I'm not addicted to crack. I didn't feel the urge to do crack after that. I had suspicions at first, but then it was just confirmed. So, yeah, crack. I ate crack for like a week, almost. That's just how my life went. The fucked up thing is, right, I still continue to buy drugs from that guy. But you know what? It is what it is. That's life. Sometimes, you know, you do some crack and, you know, that's just, I don't know. But yeah, that's the end of the story pretty much.